All right, welcome back to the program. Hour number 3, our final hour of today and our final hour of this week. And I'm very, very pleased to invite into my studio today somebody who's here, as far as I know, for the first time. Definitely on my show, it's the first time. But
actually, I used to do a little 10-minute thing a long time ago with Evan Russo, God rest his soul, as we like to say.
Yeah.
We used to do a recap on my show, on my whatever was on my newspaper every week. But I never had this kind of fun.
Well, this is going to be a lot of fun. I like to have fun. You know, I come from a family that loves to debate. You know, I often say you come to my house on Thanksgiving, you got to bring, a helmet and some gloves and everything else. But we always love each other and leave happy afterwards, right?
My mother had 10 sisters.
Okay.
When I was growing up, my father had 2. I had an even dozen aunts growing up. Those women went on to have 30-something kids. So there were a whole bunch of cousins. And we all managed to we fought, we still do, but we get along, so I know exactly what you mean, and that's why I like to say what I want to say, and I expect people not to, hold a grudge for 10 years.
Yeah, well, we're here to restore civility, right? Beth David is
Unless
my
I
guest.
come up with a really, really good insult that I just can't resist. Okay?
But that's good, as long as you do it with a smile on your
exactly.
face. That's Beth David is the, are you the editor and publisher?
I am the editor, publisher, owner, the everything. I'm a one-person show over there.
Fairhaven Neighborhood News, which comes out every week, right? Every Tuesday?
Every Thursday.
On Thursday, his
yes.
histories. Okay. And so tell us a little bit about the publication before we get into some serious issues here.
Okay, well, it's focused mostly on local stuff, but I do, on page 2 is my editorial page where I get to say what I that's the non-objective, here's the news thing. That's where I get to play a little bit and play a little bit of politics and take a poke at some politicians. And it's a lot of fun. So I do have some editorial content in there, some opinion pieces in there coming from me. But mostly we focus on what's going on in Fairhaven and Acushnet. We cover hard news in Fairhaven, hard news in Acushnet, a little bit in New Bedford, depending on how it will affect us. And we do features and event listings from Rhode Island to the Cape. So anything that I think my readers might be interested in, I try to focus a lot on the local people. I try and give some freebie publicity to local authors and local artists and that kind of stuff. And I don't know, is that what you were looking for? That's what you mean?
Yeah, and it can be found just about anywhere around here, right?
Oh, right. It's in a couple of hundred places.
Okay.
From in Acushnet, Dartmouth, Fairhaven, Marion, Mattapoisett, and New Bedford. I have to do it alphabetically, so I don't forget anybody. It's an over 200. The bulk of our readership, though, was in Fairhaven and Acushnet. But downtown New Bedford, we have a pretty good. We get rid of a lot of papers there too.
Well, you and I have gone head to head a couple of times on the air. Because you did write an editorial that kind of pissed me off, and we went at it, and we've gone at it. But you know what? We had a great discussion. We had a great reaction to it. So I wanted to get you and kind of pull you out of your norm a little bit and talk about some other issues that affect all of us. Because I think you express yourself very well, and I appreciate.
Thank you.
And even though sometimes we have different points of view, I do appreciate your expressing your views and your willingness to do so in a sane and calm manner, where you're not going to sit and just yell at me. So
well, I try to be sane and calm as often as I can, but. Yeah, I don't like getting yelled at much either. I don't mind the loud voice.
Yep.
But I don't like being called.
Well, just
names.
smile, like I said.
I don't like being called. I had a guy, an uncle who used to say, "You can say anything with a smile."
So you can listen to us right now on WBSM.com. You can go to our Facebook page. You can go to where we're streaming. You can go to YouTube. We're everywhere right now, and this will be up on YouTube all. Forever after this. It'll be out there. So I wanted to start with something that you're sitting there holding in your hand. I was showing it to you and you were listening to the conversation on it. A piece of legislation that's making its way through the legislature on Beacon Hill. And it seems as though the legislature actually stumbled upon something positive to do besides spending our money. And they want our kids to learn about civics and to become responsible and morally correct citizens. They want them to learn about the constitutions, the U.S. and Massachusetts Constitution, flag etiquette, get out there and vote, all of these kind of things. And they think it's a good place to start in the classroom. And there's even some talk that potentially there could be a civics project that would be a requirement for graduation. What do you make of all of this?
Well, I'm just reading it now. I haven't really been able to read the whole thing completely, but I think I've got the gist of it, is that they're going to require, they want to require a civics course as a requirement for graduation from high school. So this would be for high school students?
It doesn't specify, but I would assume that they want to start it at some point during the education process, and by the time you get to high school, you have to complete some kind of a civics project.
I think the concept of understanding how our government works and understanding our Constitution, I think it's great. If you're, I have some new citizens in my family, and I'm a Lebanese, so I'm in the Lebanese community in Beverly. So my entire life there have been people, I got my citizenship today and this and all that stuff. So that's been just a part of my upbringing, and they have to learn all this stuff, and it frightens me that people who've been in this country for a couple of years and have just gotten their citizenship know more about how it works than
somebody who's been given a high school diploma. Sure.
And, and I see it all the time. I get phone calls. I actually got a person stopped me in one of the stores and was going on and on about, she was just going on and on and on about this terrible thing they have. I can't remember what the actual subject was. And I had to just keep repeating to her, but that's the House of Representatives. That's, not the local guys. That's the House of Representatives. It was actually state. And she was trying to talk about running for office and how she wanted to do all this stuff. And I just had to keep explaining the very, very basic House. This, this is your rep. Strauss is your rep. Montigny's your senator. It has nothing to do with Keating. It was like everybody was. It was like, how do you, you're trying to be respectful. You're speaking to an adult and you're in a public space and stuff. But I wanted to grab her by the neck and say, go read a book.
Yeah, yeah.
Go read a. So yeah, I think it would really be. I learned that stuff. I don't remember when. I don't know if it was high school, middle. Well, I didn't have middle school. I went to the Catholic school, so I don't know when it was. But I just thought it was stuff you just always kind of knew. Yeah. But it isn't true anymore.
It isn't true. And I hear that a lot from callers. So you heard a couple of callers on the way in. Now we're talking about impeachment. And that's something that's very important. And people don't understand that. They don't understand how the government works. And I don't know where it broke down. I learned it in school somewhere along the way. It's been so many years. I don't remember who taught it to me. But it seemed like it was always a part of our lesson in school. I seem to recall in grade school starting to learn about world history and starting to learn about U.S. history. And it might have been sugar-coated to some degree, no question, but at least it was an introduction. And I think maybe we need to make a more realistic approach to history. But what is a society that doesn't know and understand its history or how its government works?
Well, history is one thing because, they're teaching history. But how your government works, who you're voting for. Here's an example. We knew somebody was running for office. And I remember my brother, we were young. This was 20, 30 years ago. And whoever it was telling people, get your friends to vote for me, for me, for me. It was running for some local thing in New Bedford. I was living in New Bedford at the time. And my brother just shook his head and he told some people he knows, I'm trying to be vague with names and that kind of thing, He told some people he knew, listen, this is my high school buddy, go vote for him. And he said, are you registered to vote? And they were like, I don't think so. And this was the question. I go to the post office to register for that, right? And he was like, oh, God help us. Mm-hmm. These were normal, regular New Bedford people who went to the schools and no, that's where you go for the military guy. I don't know what a woman would have asked, right? Because women know. I don't know but I just said, I don't know what to tell you. So yeah, I'm all for the idea of teaching civics, and we have great pride in Massachusetts. The United States form it was based on us. We started the House, the Senate, right? Didn't we do that?
We did.
And we had the governor, so that's the president. We did all that. We did it first.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of reason for us to learn it in other ways.
Right.
But as you were talking about before, I'm not sure.
Well, I was just going to ask you, what scares you about
this? Is morally and I'm not sure it scares me. It just makes me kind of chuckle. The bill would require that to prepare students morally and intellectually for the duties of citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
As a writer, I have to just say, I think they chose the wrong words. I want to believe they only chose the wrong words.
Well, who determines whether you're morally a good citizen?
I don't know if it does or doesn't, but it shouldn't be someone on
Stanley
Beacon Hill.
Rosenberg, or is it? Yeah, right. Oh, one of the last three speakers who resigned in. Or his husband. Yeah. Oh, one of the last three speakers who resigned in disgrace. Sal DeMacy. Does he decide what morally is?
And it goes back even farther than that, right? What didn't we vote in a governor who was in jail, or is that just the mayor? That was Mayor Curley, maybe in Boston.
In Boston, yeah.
Wasn't he sitting in jail? He was serving a sentence for something.
Didn't we have a U.S. senator from our area that was elected in jail, or
I don't remember that.
Came out of jail and became mayor or something? I don't recall exactly the details, so I won't mention the name.
Well, there was one who was actually in jail. I'm pretty sure it was Curley from Boston. Maybe
elected from jail.
Yeah. See, when I'm home and I have my real computer, I would have been looking that up right away. I'm not as quick with the laptop. So yeah, I have a problem with this morally. Intellectually, I want them to have the knowledge. I'm not sure who decides someone is an intellectual or not. I mean, I like to think I am, but that's.
Well, what about this flag etiquette too? Because I mean, we all claim today that we have our own individual rights not to salute the flag if we don't want to, or not to believe in the flag. So now they're talking about an actual curriculum that would require you to know and learn about flag etiquette. I don't want to learn about flag etiquette. I don't like the flag. So do I have to do this? Do I get kicked out of school, or what happens to me?
I think there's a difference between learning about flag etiquette and being forced to say under God. So I think we can separate those two things. I guess I didn't do it the last couple of years, but I have run over the years more than once flag etiquette, how you're supposed to display it, that you are supposed to stand, put your hand on your chest and all that stuff. Men take their hats off as it goes by, and I love it when I see that in the parades, and I try and get a picture of it. It's always the older guys.
But those are the old vets, right? Yeah.
It's always the older guys.
Now you can't even get a guy to take his hat off in a restaurant.
Yeah, well. But I don't see a problem with them learning flag etiquette and learning what they're supposed to do. Trying to force them to do it, that's a whole different issue. Then that's when you get into I have the right not to.
Doesn't that make you a morally good citizen?
Well, and hence my hesitation with the whole, I don't know what makes you might be more moral to say, no, I'm not going to do it. Yeah. I'm standing by my morals. I'm standing by my the courage of my convictions, the nuns used to call it. Yeah. Because that was only if you agreed with them. If you didn't agree with them,
then they break out the ruler and then everybody heads for the exits. But you did raise a good point when we were talking about this off the air. Does the legislature actually have the authority to do this, to establish curriculum for the public schools?
I don't know. That was my first thing when I looked at it. It was like, since when are they telling us specific courses? I understand you also mentioned MCAS, but that seems to me that was a broader kind of a thing. They were saying they wanted kids to be proficient in math in these different areas and, just get it done kind of thing and do it whatever way you want. But to have a very specific, I mean, who's going to write it? Some intern who works for DeLeo?
Yeah, right.
I have a real, and this idea that it's going to help provide an antidote to the polarized climate that ails the current American political system. I hate to disagree with my liberal colleagues here, but I got to tell you, I don't see how that's going to help anything. I mean, I shouldn't say that. It helps for people to know how things work. But if someone wants to call me a bad name because I'm on the other side of the political spectrum, I don't see how knowing the difference between the House, Senate, and Governor's office is going to stop them. I really don't, All
right, let me do this. I got to take a break. We got some other stuff to talk about. 508-9960-500. Get on board. Beth David from the Fairhaven Neighborhood News is with me until 3 o'clock, and we'd love to have you join the conversation. What do you think about a curriculum established in Massachusetts that would require kids to do civics, learn about stuff like flag etiquette, the U.S. Constitution, the state constitution, how to be a morally good citizen, go out and vote and all this kind of stuff, and then have to perform some kind of a project in order to get your graduation degree? What do you think about that? 508-9960-500. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the program. It is now 2:26. Beth David is with me from the Fairhaven Neighborhood News. Let's get to the phones at 508-996-0500. Thanks for hanging on. You're next in WBSM.
Hi.
Hi.
I think civics would be a great idea. But morals, I don't know about morals. Ethics.
There you go. Yeah, maybe that's a better word. Ethics.
Maybe that would have been a better word for them to use.
Yeah.
Because whose morals are you going to go by?
Yeah. Well, that's my question.
I certainly wouldn't want Donald Trump writing them.
So you think it's a good idea to require civics?
I do.
Do you think it's a good idea?
How the government works.
Yeah.
And who's, what's your city councilman? What's the mayor? What's your state rep? Your local rep? Your senator in Washington? What's the president's job? Mm-hmm. That would be a good thing to know. I remember when I was a kid, they used to have the Schoolhouse Rock stuff come on.
Oh, yeah.
To this day, I could still sing the preamble to the Constitution because of that.
Good for you. You know what got me was the fifth dimension. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal.
I don't remember that. But,
you know what?
I don't know if I missed it. I'm older than you guys, so it's not that it was before my time.
All right, appreciate your call, my friend. 508-996-0500. You're up next with Barry and Beth. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Barry, and good afternoon to your esteemed guest.
Thank you.
Yes, Beth, I just want to say thank you for producing the neighborhood news because I pick it up every week at my local Truckee supermarket.
Oh, cool.
And I think it's a wonderfully written publication.
Thank you very much.
I especially enjoy the articles and in the most recent edition. I guess you got into a tiff with somebody taking a picture of somebody using a snowblower, which I thought was very Fairhaven. Anyway.
Well, it also fits right into what we're talking about with how understanding the that's why I actually just pulled it out, which understanding how the Constitution works here.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I also like the recipes you print inside of it, and
thanks.
I find this a lot more informational than the Standard Times, to be honest with you.
Well, the Standard Times is spread kind of thin. They're trying to cover 23 towns or something. So what they end up doing is one or two stories for each town, and I'm not sure they have the staff for it. When I was writing for them, they had way more people. I get to do 4 or 5 stories, 6 stories. It's all about Fairhaven and Acushnet, so it is more news.
Yeah,
for
times have changed. There's no question. Thank you for the call, my friend. Appreciate it very much. You got a fan there. So tell us a little bit about your editorial and how it relates to what we're talking about here.
Well, it started out with I started putting the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution on the cover, and and I did it as I did it strictly because of the freedom of the press, free speech, freedom of the press. And I did it in the middle of your pal Trump was, denigrating the press and calling us called us the enemy of the people. So somewhere around in there, I said, no.
Only the fake news.
Only the fake news. So I started putting that on the front. And then recently I put in something from the Pentagon Papers, which I thought was a real kick because of the movie, about a cantankerous press, right? Or is it a cantankerous press? Anyway, so after that ran for a while, recently, just a couple of weeks ago, I got a phone call from one of my readers, and he told me his name and everything. I'm not going to use his name, but he told me his name and he gave me his phone number so I could call him back. So I looked him up in my nosy book, the street list, discovered he was in his 70s, lives in Fairhaven, and he was upset that I put the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution on the cover because he believed it meant that I was anti-religion. And honest to God, it says, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. That's what it starts out with. But to be honest with you, I think I kind of just go over that one because I'm like, prohibiting freedom of speech, right? That's what I'm like, yeah. And I was flabbergasted. He left the message on my voicemail because I wasn't there. I didn't pick up.
So he thought that meant that you were opposed to organized religion or people's right to.
And he said that. Actually, I transcribed it and I meant to email it to myself so I could use it here if we needed all the details. But I did use some of it in here, and he said it clearly shows that I'm not too keen about organized religion. He kept referring to the editor. He said it wasn't appropriate, and he said it was offensive to a lot of people. That's a quote. Yeah, that's a quote. And he said, I mean, regardless of what her official religion is or whatever her personal beliefs are, I think she's really projecting it by, and then he reads, there shall be no law respecting an establishment of religion. And I was just like...
But see, it means just the opposite of what he's suggesting.
Exactly. And that's what I said in my editorial. Because
he needs civics classes.
He needs civics classes. And I think it fits right in. And then, in the middle of the storm, I was taking pictures, driving around taking pictures. The funny part is I wasn't even getting out of my car because it was too nasty out there, right? But I had the paper completed to a certain point. It was a good storming out there, but it wasn't really the nasty stuff. So I get in the car with the camera and I'm going around, driving around, taking pictures. I want pictures of snow flying and, the stuff. Yeah. I'm not going to be Peter Pereira, but the Peter Pereira stuff. I don't pretend to be as good as he is, but getting out there. And I go by this house I live on West Island, so I'm a couple of blocks away, and I take the picture, and I'm trying to get the car or the angle right to take the picture out the front window of somebody, snow blowing a driveway. And he notices me, and he starts coming over, and I roll the window down, and of course, it's West Island, and I have to admit it, I'm getting to be, I don't know what I'm getting to be, but I just figure everybody knows who I am now, And he comes over and he's like, in a very hostile way, he said, "Don't take my picture, or stop, or what are you doing?" or something like that. And he said, "What are you doing?" And I held up my camera. I was like, it's pretty obvious. He said, "Don't take my picture." And I was like, hey, come on, man, And he said, "Don't I have the right not to have my picture? Don't I have the right to ask not to have my picture taken, or to say I don't want something like that?" And I was just like, "No," and I put the window up and I took off. I admit, I wimped out. Because normally I would say no, and I explain to people. And again, it goes to the civics class. I have to explain all the time at these events. Yes, I will not use the picture of your child. I am not going to use a picture of a kid if somebody doesn't want me to. I'm just not. But ask me. We're at this event where in front of the Union Church and the fire hoses are going. Everybody's jumping around. I'm taking a million pictures. Really? I'm going to stop. And so you come to me, say, I've had this with foster parents a lot. I think that they're not supposed to, and they say, "Please don't use this picture. He's a foster child." That's fool. Or please don't use. I had one. They had, fled the father and someone. I was like, no problem. But you don't have the right to stop me from taking it. You can ask me not to take it, but you are in a public place at a public event doing a public thing. And this is part of my First Amendment right to be able to do. I have rights too.
So did you use the picture?
I didn't use the picture, but only because it was kind of a crappy picture.
Oh, all right. So
it was kind of a wimp. No, I really. If you could,
didn't know who I was.
If you could have really seen his face clearly, although if I really went in and doctored it up and all that, you probably could have. But it wasn't. If you saw the pictures I used, he was just a picture of a guy snowblowing. I didn't even get, you want the snow. And you want the good angle and a little bit farther away. It just wasn't a good picture to use. But no, I've had that happen before, and I put the guy right on page 3, and I really trashed him. It was a car accident, that one, and he was mad at me. But that's a whole different story. But again, it's him too. He came. That was another one a couple of years ago. There was a car accident. I take the picture. The guy comes flying at me, screaming and shaking his finger. And the police officer, it was a Fairhaven police officer, stepped and said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa. You tell her she can't take that picture." And he's using all kinds of profane language. And the police officer says, "She has every right to take that picture." I was on the sidewalk, and that one I used, I put it right there, and I even said to my editorial.
Again, it's another case of civics. People don't understand completely what their rights are, and they think they have these imaginary rights, or they don't even understand the rights that they do have.
Yeah, and it's I think part of it comes from this whole problem we're talking about with people calling each other names when they disagree, and people saying, "This is how I want it, this is my America," or whatever. Right. We live in a pluralistic society, and I think people forget to think of the other guy.
Right.
But I have these rights. Well, that person has the same rights.
Yeah.
So if that person wanted to take a picture
my rights
of
are
me,
more important than your rights, so you're... Yeah.
Exactly. If that person wanted to take a picture of me, and I started screaming about it, I can see that same person saying, "Oh, you can't tell me I can't take a picture." So I don't know, but it was disconcerting, but it was also kind of fun because I get to write about it. I got the bucket of ink.
508-996-0500. You're on the air with Beth David and Barry. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Barry.
Hey.
Good afternoon, Beth.
Hi.
Beth, I wish I had known about your publication a year ago. I would have had a very good story for you. Someday we'll have to get together and I'll give it to you.
Yeah, give me a call or shoot me an email.
On the security situation at the Ford Middle School while I was working there.
Mm-hmm. At Ford, yeah. I only started covering a Christian a little while ago, so.
Well, it's the security has been upgraded since I retired, but when I was there, we had a lot of problems with the administration adhering to the rulings that were set down that I was trying to establish.
Well, that's what local papers are for, right?
That's a good story, though.
Yeah.
And Barry, as far as the civics, I think it's great because we, like you said, it was kind of filtered into us. I don't recall what grade it was either, but it was a good thing, and
it was just part of our overall education.
Right.
Yeah.
And of course, what I was really kind of disgusted about is like how little history we learned about New Bedford. Like over the past few years, I've been hearing a lot about Frederick Douglass, and I was like, gee, we never even heard Frederick Douglass when I was in high school in history, and all the things he did in New Bedford.
Right. No, it's absolutely true. There's so much history in Massachusetts, as Beth pointed out. I mean, it all began right here. And New Bedford, Gosnell, 16-something, founded New Bedford. And so few people know that. And in the history with Frederick Douglass, we have a Frederick Douglass Boulevard in New Bedford. I bet you a lot of people don't even know that, or they go by and have no idea who Frederick Douglass was. So there is so much here. I think we should learn from our history. And I think if kids knew more about the history, they'd have a little bit more pride and maybe more of a desire to want to invest in the future of this area. I mean, that just seems to make common sense to me anyway.
I guess. I think that's right. We didn't learn a whole lot. I think in Fairhaven they do a lot of that.
Yeah.
I'm learning, since I've had my paper. I grew up in New Bedford. And when I got to Fairhaven and learned about Mongerow and all these other things, I was like, really? Henry Huddleston Rogers was best friends with Mark Twain? How come I didn't know that? I was a Mark Twain. I read every biography I could get my hands on when I was a little kid about Mark Twain, and I did not remember that being in there.
Right.
There might have been one paragraph. So, that's kind of cool stuff.
Definitely.
And I think that relives. But it just kind of it frightens me that people don't, in my mind, understand what America really is supposed to be. I mean, and that's what we are.
Yeah.
Let
me take the next break. 508-996-0500. Get on board. Beth David with me until the top of the hour. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more. All right, 2:42 on a Friday afternoon. Did you have this guy's picture hanging up from 16 magazine on your wall like when you were a teenager?
No.
No.
No. I think
Tiger Beat.
a little. I think I'm a little old for this guy.
Yeah, Bobby Sherman. This would have been what,
Is
about
Bobby
60, probably 68, somewhere on there.
Is that Bobby Sherman?
Bobby
no,
Sherman,
I like
yeah.
Bobby Sherman.
Yeah.
I thought he was adorable.
You did?
I did, yeah. Right? Is he? Am I mixing him up with? Wait a minute. Which one was Bobby Sherman?
Bobby Sherman was this guy right here. He was on Here Come the Brides.
That was him. Yes, I thought he
Here Come
was
the
the
Brides?
cutest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
But boy,
watch
how
it.
soon you forget, huh?
I know. Huh? Well, no, because I mix up him with Bobby Goldsboro.
Ah, okay.
Because there's a couple of songs they do. I think they do the
Watching
same.
Scotty grow. Is
Yeah.
what it is.
And I always think he did it. And I'm like, it's a very different look.
We've got Beth David with us from Fairhaven Neighborhood News, and she's with us until the top of the hour. Talk a little bit about civics. Going to bring up the other topic that we were talking about earlier, too, about the Pennsylvania law concerning bullying. We'll do that in just a second, but let's get back to your calls. Appreciate you hanging on. You're next on WBSM.
Good day, Barry.
Hey, how are you?
There's a lady in the mix today, I understand.
Absolutely. Beth
Who you
David.
calling a lady?
What was your comment, young lady?
I said, who you calling a lady? You talking to me? You talking
You sound very much like the female of the species to me. Now, everybody
good.
out there is probably wondering what happened to Donald Trump and why he acted very unlike himself today. And
He signed the omnibus bill. For those who don't know what you're talking about, he signed the bill, the budget bill, which most people thought that he shouldn't sign.
How could anyone who has a love of country not know what I'm talking about? In other words, if they're not tuned in to what happened today when Trump went before the nation and said he was going to sign this piece of crap called an omnibus bill, what happened there is we found out that he is not in charge of the nation, that someone controls him, as you will find out in the book called The Controllers by Edward A. Whitney of Westport, Connecticut. And the controller in this case is the same one that Harvard graduate, MIT graduate, Dr. Stephen Pasenik has pointed out to us back in the summer of 16, that this country was taken over early in 16 by its military, led by Joseph P. Dunford, native of Boston, graduate of St. Michael's College.
I tell you what, you're getting very, very deep for us right now. Can you just get to your point?
Deep. Well, it's time
all right, thanks
Well,
for the
why?
cooperation very much.
What I don't understand. I know, Barry, you weren't happy you signed that bill either, and I heard part of what he had to say before I came here. I don't. I mean, I haven't clearly read the bill. Apparently, nobody has.
Nobody in Congress read it either.
But I mean, it gives this huge boost in spending to the military. What are you guys all freaked out about?
Yeah.
What do you hate it so much for? I mean,
A lot of wasteful spending on it too. There's a lot of things that his
to
base.
America.
Well, his base obviously was opposed to funding Planned Parenthood. Right? The money's in there.
Explain that to me. I mean, there's not an item that says we're going to give X amount of dollars to Planned Parenthood, is there? I mean, isn't it just money to support women who have abortions? And Planned Parenthood is not a band. I mean, they're considered a regular healthcare provider who can get that money. Isn't that it?
Is there a specific line item that says Planned Parenthood? I'm not sure. I've never read the federal
so
budget.
Then how do we always say funding for Planned Parenthood? I mean, the Hyde Amendment doesn't let government money be used for abortions anyway. So I've been meaning to kind of look that up and say, what are they talking about here? I don't understand what funding for Planned Parenthood means.
Yeah.
I thought that what we did was with the Affordable Health Care Act was give money to women for birth control and other reproductive health care, and that they could go to Planned Parenthood for those services, and their insurances would pay for it. That to me isn't funding for Planned Parenthood. You can go anywhere, but a lot of these women have nowhere else to go except Planned Parenthood. And when it comes to the abortion end of it, I'm pretty sure the Hyde Amendment's still in place. So I don't understand. I just don't understand what the freak out is. Yeah. I just really don't. Except that the budget is.
Well, the government money would wind up at Planned Parenthood, and that does bother some people who feel that the primary role of Planned Parenthood is to provide abortions.
Mm-hmm. God bless them.
Yeah.
We're going to agree on that. We'll mix it up on that one someday.
Yeah.
I know we don't have time today. So
I wanted to get into well, we can talk more about the budget. We can even talk about more with abortion too. But the budget, I think, what the problem was with Trump's base was Trump ran on build a wall,
Okay.
right? And I think seeing Trump settle for $1.6 billion for the wall as opposed to the $25 billion that he was looking for is a disappointment for his base.
all right, because what I read very quickly, I thought he got the $25 billion, and that wasn't enough.
No, it was
25 billion is the total.
1.6 billion. He was looking for 25 billion. 1.6 billion, which is not even targeting any new construction. What it would do would be like repair various barriers along the way.
But that's for 6 months. 1.6 billion for 6 months.
Well,
is
that
pretty
that
good,
is
Perry.
important. Well, that is it is important to note that this is only a six-month budget, so there'll be
not a
another
bad
thing coming
start.
up down the road. The military thing was good. Public broadcasting was another thing that a lot of Trump supporters do not support.
Right.
Federal money for public broadcasting. That money's in there. Very wasteful spending on. My God, I had a list in front of me a few minutes ago, but money for pay raises for congressional staffers to the hundreds of millions of dollars and various things like that.
But that's the low-paying guys, right?
Those
the
are
low-paid guys to begin with.
generally, yeah.
And D.C. is so expensive, but that's a different thing. But what I don't understand is when he was running and he was saying America shouldn't be everyone's police force, I thought he was saying we're going to cut military spending because we don't want to pay to be, protecting Japan, and there are all these other countries. Again, because I don't do this full time, and I don't want to start naming countries and naming things and getting myself in trouble. But you understand what I'm saying. That was a big deal. I thought he was going to cut military spending for that, and instead he's gone completely the other way. I personally think we've not decimated our military in the last 8 years. I personally think it's insulting to say that Democrats hate the military, they're anti-American.
No, but the first thing Democrats go to cut is the budget, the military budget.
But that's because it's bloated. And if you take away some from that, you can put it into social programs, which I know we can agree with.
You and I will agree. We will agree that we have to stop being the world's policeman. Trump believes that too. And what he said during the campaign is, if these countries like Japan, like South Korea, like all of these countries, expect us to provide defense, they have to pay for it. We can't foot the bill anymore. But the cost of buying the toys that you need to have in order to make your country safe is very, very expensive. And to pay an army, we haven't given our soldiers a pay raise in years. And some of these folks are living on food stamps and public housing and various things like that. So we need to do better there. But it's extremely expensive, the military budget.
Does it bother you? I know it bothers me to think that Japan or South Korea or anybody would pay us. I mean, I understand it's about the money, but all I can think of is the word mercenary. I don't want to be the world's. I don't want to be mercenaries either. No. That scares me. I think I'd rather pay for this bloated budget and not be charging.
But we have allies all around the world, as you know. I mean, we defend other countries that are smaller countries from the big bullies that are going to come and pick on them. But it's also to our strategic advantage to have bases all around the world.
So we should pay for them.
So we do to some extent. But I mean, if we're providing, we do entirely. But if we're providing defense for somebody, a smaller country that's got money, they should be able to help us out with that, right? I mean, if we're going to pay for your defense.
I guess, but I think I would want to see how that's going to be structured, because the idea of them paying us in that way makes me think that now we're the world's mercenaries, and I don't like that word. I don't like the way that feels. I would rather have us just saying, no, it's in our best interest as a nation to be there, so we're going to be there, we're going to pay for it, whether you like it or not, kind of thing. And what happens if they cut the budget? Now we don't put as much as we need in there. I mean, that really creeps me out. And I think that the military budget is just bloated. Like I said, I haven't read this bill. Apparently nobody has. But I think that this is a bad idea.
So you'd
for different reasons than you guys.
Rather than spend the money on our defense, you said bring it home and put it in a social program.
I think that we shouldn't be spending as much of it to begin with, period. I think we're increasing the budget deficit. I think that I would like to see, if we are going to spend this money, I would like to see it on social programs. This is
Well, let's cut some of the social programs.
My money's going up there, and it's gone. Now they scream about pork. They scream about special projects. I want that money coming back. I like pork. Pork is great.
Yeah,
it doesn't come back anymore.
I like making sure that the North Koreans and Iran are not going to nuke us too. I mean, there are a lot of things we're going to watch out for. It's a dangerous world out there.
I understand. But when you take this money, in a practical sense, I don't think we need as much to protect us from that. That's
so what do we do? What are we not doing in terms of social programs that we should be doing more of?
Oh, not just social programs. How about infrastructure? Right. This is one of the things we talked about maybe discussing because it's important. Yeah. We've got our treatment plant in Fairhaven. I'm not sure what's happening with Dartmouth and everybody else, but anybody who has a wastewater treatment plant is going to have to bring down their nitrogen level. If the water is being discharged into certain places, our water is discharged into the harbor, and it's going to cost us $20 million to refit our plant. Now, in the old days, you'd have the government telling you this is what you have to do. Here's a bunch of money. Go do it.
But
Ronald Reagan started that.
Government overreach, though?
No, because it's going to save the environment, which apparently we don't care about that anymore either. But no, nitrogen is a killer. Now we could move the pipe, because I should probably explain to people when you treat wastewater, it's not polluted water anymore, but it has a high nitrogen content, and what it does is it increases. Algae and grasses and stuff grow too much, and then the fish die and the shellfish. It chokes everything else out. So depending on where this pipe ends up, it can kill everything in a bay. And where our pipe in Fairhaven goes into the harbor, if we could move that pipe to the outside the hurricane barrier, then that would eliminate. Then the nitrogen content could be higher because that water flows better, and it's I think that's why. So, but that's going to cost a few $1 million too, but not as much. But my point is, it started with Ronald Reagan, the unfunded mandates of the Reagan era. You remember those, where government said you're going to do these things and stop paying for it, and made the states pay for it. But they're still taking my income tax money. If they didn't take all our income tax money, then we'd have money to use
Ronald Reagan. I mean,
yeah, but he's the one who stopped funding all this stuff.
The Great Society started with Lyndon Johnson, right?
I don't know. Did he stop paying for stuff?
He started making us pay for stuff.
He paid for stuff. I mean,
yeah.
But my point is, I was trying to tie this into the budget. I would rather see some of that money go towards some of these other projects, not just social programs, not just food stamps and that kind of stuff, but stuff like this. Our infrastructure has been ignored forever. What is this? Does this do anything for infrastructure?
Well, we're wasting. Well, there was supposed to be an agreement on infrastructure.
Yeah,
this doesn't do it, though. This isn't it. That's going to have to be a separate bill.
Okay.
Let me take a break. We'll come right back after this. All right, welcome back. We've got about a minute left with Beth David from the Fairhaven Neighborhood News. And if you're just tuning in and didn't catch us in the beginning, Fairhaven Neighborhood News is a local newspaper that covers largely Fairhaven and just added Acushnet and a little bit into New Bedford and in that area. And you say you can find it in like 80 gazillion locations all over the place?
Yeah, a couple of hundred places.
A couple of hundred. And so it's you come out on Thursday.
Come out on Thursdays, usually delivered, the bulk of it's delivered by around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and then a few other stragglers who are out a little more. Excuse me, it's a little later. We're at a couple of the grocery stores. Stop and Shop's a big stop, as that other, your listener said. Trukey's is a good spot for us, and that's way in the north end. So we kind of cover a bunch of different areas here. Yeah. And we're available online. You can get the full paper, the PDF, which is page for page, including the ads. And I do pop up some individual stories online. So.
Oh, great. Love to get you back in.
Okay, great. I'd love to be back in.
All right. We'll do it real soon.
Okay.
All right. Appreciate it. Beth David, and say hi to your cousin Bruce for me. And he's probably listening right now because he listens a lot.
Oh, I hope so. Yeah,
everybody knows Bruce.
Everybody knows Bruce.
Everybody
the coach.
knows cousin
He was a
Bruce.
coach,
Yeah. Baseball coach. He was my son's coach.
He's become a really good photographer. A little push out there for him. He's really good. He's been putting some really good stuff up out on Facebook and a couple of places.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you, Beth. All right, we're out of time. Believe it or not, the week is over. It's time for the weekend. Hopefully, you get outside and do something this weekend, and join us back here on Monday at noon. And we'll see you then. Have a safe weekend. Howie Carr is coming up right after the news. ABC, then Tim, then Howie. See you guys. See you Monday.